So I literally plug it in the wall, and I go. It's like I go like. Right to hear
That's
it.
it.
Blow a fuse.
No.
One of the amps blew a fuse the second I plugged it in.
I want to ask you this story that's always blown my mind. When you were a kid, when you were 15 years old, you tracked down 2 Vox amplifiers.
Yeah, well, with the help of, like, John Jorgensen, I had opened for the Desert Rose Band, and that's why I wanted it.
Because you saw him playing them.
Yeah.
And
well, and also it was life-changing because it was like, all right, that's tone. And this was in the 80s. This was like late 80s. And everybody else, it was, you know, the whole, it was like the whole, yeah. You know. Like Stratty kind of.
Yeah, right.
Chorus delay. Like up to that point, I had a Mesa Boogie preamp and an ADA.
Yeah, of course.
Chorus, dual chorus stereo splitter with 2 boogie cabinets. That was my rig.
Yeah.
Imagine that now.
It's crazy.
That's a cool rig now for certain things.
Yeah, right.
But like, so then it was like, I heard, you know.
Yes.
And I was like, wow, that's a guitar like banging in an amp, and it's like, you know. You know,
right.
That stuff.
The attack is so much more emphatic.
Yeah, I was like through a Vox
yes.
AC30, and I went. And also when you saw, like, I opened for them, and there they were. It was like, he had a teal blue and a red when he opened for me, and for a while he had a white one and a red one, and then he had covered them himself. Like, he custom covered those amps because he had heard about. And he bought Tolex, ripped off the Tolex, and then put on this other stuff himself. Like, John's a tinkerer too.
Yeah.
And he really got these going, like a real, just a crazy, like, beautiful display of this guy with a sparkle finished ASAT playing this stuff. And I was like, that's what I want to sound like. And what's funny is I saw somebody in the chat room saying, where does Brad get his inspiration? They said, well, if you really want to figure out like what he's going for, go listen to Desert Rose Band, like John Jorgensen or the Helicasters.
Yes, yeah.
So they came back the next day, was like, man, he just absolutely ripped him off. Like, there's no originality to what I'm doing.
I don't think so, though. I think your tone is very different, even through the Voxes.
Maybe. I can do an impression, but that's what happens with every guitarist and every songwriter and the Beatles. It's you trying to be your heroes and you can't. And that becomes you.
So I love picturing this, that you're calling London, basically, which is funny to think about because you couldn't, like, they didn't have them here. Well, now you go into a Guitar Center and Voxes are everywhere.
Yeah,
but
they were way more prevalent over there. They were like Fender Twins over there. Yeah. Everybody had one in their basement.
Yeah.
So I called a store called Music Ground in Doncaster, England, because John had said, I had asked him, I got his phone number when I opened for them, and I called him, and here I am, like 16, 15, 16. I might have been 15 because I couldn't drive yet. My dad had to drive me to go pick them up when they came in, because we saved money on the shipping by having them shipped locally an hour away and going there to pick them up.
Yeah.
Versus going all the way, like, once they landed in America, the ground shipping even an hour south was like.
So you drove to pick them up, and TSA had torn the boxes open, right?
You know all this.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, no, we got there and they searched them for drugs.
Yeah.
Which.
Because they thought guitar amps coming in, probably someone's trying to smuggle drugs in them.
This is a backdoor operation. There's cocaine in these.
And then how'd you plug both of them in together? Were you able to?
Well, when I got them home, they had British plugs. They had the big thing with the three prongs. So I was like, it was like, that was funny because I had borrowed $2,500 from my dad. I was good for it because around that time of year, I was really playing. It was Christmas-ish.
Yeah.
And I was playing a lot of solo gigs and making a couple $100 every time.
And he knew where you lived.
Yeah, he knew where I lived.
Right.
He was my landlord.
Right.
So, same guy that owned that paddle right there, which is going to be.
That's going to be our next.
That's our next story.
Yeah, okay, great.
But So John Jorgensen says, go find them wherever you can find them. So I call these they send them to town. It's 2 amps. I've never even played through an AC30 at this point, and I've just spent $2,500 to
On
ship
2 of
them
them.
from England to someone I could barely understand on the phone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Calling at weird hours. So they get there, we drive up, we get them, we drive an hour back through snow coming down. We get to my dad was a president of the fire department, volunteer fire department. We get to within walking distance of the house. We're 500 yards away. But we're going down the main drag, and he says, we need to wash the truck. And so there's 2 AC30s and cardboard boxes in the back of...
Why does he say that? He's totally screwing
He's
with you, right?
being him.
Why
If
is
you've
he
ever
doing
met
that?
him, you understand. So he's just teaching me a lesson, which he still does.
Yeah. We're going to get to the paddle next.
Oh, yeah. So we pull in. So he's like, we have to wash the truck. And I'm like, what? And by now, it's like 8 o'clock at night, right?
Yeah.
So we pull into the stall in the fire department where firefighters could wash their cars. There was the wash stall. So he gets out and he's like, help me. And I'm like helping him wash the car. And I could see the amps in the Chevy Blazer in the back.
Yeah.
So we wash it. We get all the salt off. He's like, we got to detail the rims. I mean, it is like
The whole
the
thing.
biggest wash job. So now we get back in the car. We go home. And then we pull into the driveway. I'm like, let's get them. So we haul them out. And by now, it's like 9:30 at night, like 9 o'clock. It's starting to get a little late to like play loud because we do have neighbors. So
Yeah.
we're putting the amp in the house. I get them out. I set them up. There they are. I'm like, look at them. They're beautiful. It's that I've still got one of them is still in there.
What happened to the other one?
The other one didn't really work, and I ended up
Okay.
trading it for something eventually.
Okay, so you have them both set up.
I have them both set up. So, yeah, so there they are, and I go to plug them in the wall, and they're British plugs.
Right.
So now we got to run down. They've just closed Radio Shack because we need an outlet to like solder it on, and then we call somebody else, and they get me another plug. So we wire that up, and it's about 10:30 at night, and the lady next door, Mrs. Sarah, is going to sleep. She's about 80, and I'm like, he's like, don't like. So I literally plug it in the wall, and I go. It's like I go like. Right to hear
That's
it.
it.
Blow a fuse.
No.
One of the amps blew a fuse the second I plugged it in. So that's the weirdest little fuse. Had to find it. So it was the next day before I really got to play them.
And then did you play them together? How'd you wire them so they were playing together?
Yeah.
Or were you playing them
I
separate?
split it through a stereo splitter.
So you just got a
like
stereo
pedal,
splitter.
put 'em
Yeah,
both
you
on.
had one ready
I was
to go.
ready to go. I wanted to hear both amps.
And did it sound like you thought it would
Yep.
in your head?
Yep.
And is that, to me, that's the tone probably that you've been chasing your whole career.
Without a doubt. Because
Without a doubt.
that became Long Sermon. That became, Text. You know, that.
That's totally that sound.
Yeah.